Hi everyone! Welcome to my next video. I am so comfortable sitting out here on the ground leaning against this tree. I think it's going to be my new favorite spot, at least until winter. I want to talk about loneliness today because I think it's a really important topic, and I think a lot of people are very lonely today for various reasons. And so I was thinking about how I used to be incredibly, devastatingly lonely. And maybe some of my experiences might be helpful to some of you, hopefully, because that's what I want my channel to be all about. Just things that I've learned on my own, and hopefully be inspiring and encouraging, because I understand loneliness very, very well. Now, I believe the core of loneliness has a lot to do with how uh, we believe or what we believe about ourselves. And I say that because I was taught at a very young age that my true feelings and my true thoughts, and I've talked about this before, were insufficient, invalid, not important, and my mother in particular would constantly remind me about my very being in whatever I was doing, saying, thinking, whatever, was not right, good enough, or up to her standards. Now that was incredibly lonely for me growing up because everybody wants to be accepted, by your parents, right? Those are the primary role models growing up. And children are so very impressionable. Now, I think that had a lot to do with how I interacted with my friends. Because with my friends, I guess I was the entertainer. I was the one who made everybody laugh. And I would go out of my way to do pretty much whatever they wanted to do. Because I thought that was the only way to have friends. And sure, we had a lot of fun. But still, I never really, I hope you can hear the seagulls. I never shared any of my troubles, any of my problems, or any of my worries because I thought that would drive them away. And so, without even realizing it, I was becoming who I thought everybody else wanted me to be. And I started feeling incredibly lonely. Now, I could talk more about what is a friend, because to me, a friend is someone that you can share your deepest troubles with, and they will listen, and they will understand you, and they will sympathize with you. But I look back at all my friends, who were many throughout my growing up years. I always kept the troubled part of myself to myself because I didn't want to bother them. I didn't want to trouble them. And I was very good at doing that. But inside, I was very lonely. And I would go home happy that I went to the beach with them or went to that party or just sort of hung out at their house. Yet, I never really shared that really true part of myself. And that made me feel incredibly lonely. So, I guess they were friends on a surface level. And I think if I ever did really share my troubles, they wouldn't understand. And that proved to be true in my early 20s when I did have troubles. And not one of those friends ever came through for me. And that was okay because it is what it is. I'm not going to go back and regret any of that because it was the way I interacted and the way I was always the life of the party that they thought I was trouble free. And however, going forward in my life, I continued with this behavior. And I became like a chameleon, I guess, to be that perfect employee and to say what was expected, to be accepted. Yet deep down, I never felt that any of my job choices were the right ones for me. But I was doing what I thought was expected, despite my increasingly growing loneliness. But there's a funny thing about loneliness, because if you've been lonely for years, I think you normalize it and you think, well, maybe everybody feels this way. Maybe it's normal to feel lonely. Or maybe whatever's wrong with me is something I can never change. So I'll just continue to suffer feeling lonely. And no one wants to admit they feel lonely. To me, it was kind of a weakness. And I just persevered with it for years and years and years. And when I was married, and I've talked about this before too, because I was insecure and full of self-doubt, I chose men who treated me badly because I didn't think I deserved any better. And what did that do? It made me feel even more lonely, right? But even more so, it compounded the belief that I was not deserving of better. And I hope this makes sense. And in a twisted kind of way, I accepted my feelings of loneliness because I didn't see a way out. And because I married two narcissists, I was constantly told that my true feelings had no value anyway. So loneliness was a logical result, right? Isn't that sad? But thank goodness I was a tough girl, and I knew that something was intrinsically wrong with this ridiculous feeling of loneliness. Because there were moments when I would go ride my horse. I had a horse out in California, and whenever I rode my horse, I felt great. I did not feel lonely. I found other friends who had horses, who I rode with, had fun interacting with them, enjoyed being with these people. And it was only when I returned home that loneliness hit me again, very, very hard. And my husband actually resented me having a horse. He resented me being away. And this is going to be, it's going to sound really crazy, but I used to do all the housework in my first marriage. And I used to make sure that the laundry was done, the rooms looked nice and orderly before I went to the barn where I stabled my horse to go riding. And I will never forget this, because every single time he would ask me, "How long are you going to be gone, Barbara?" And I would feel so rushed, because didn't I deserve to go ride my horse after working all day or spending a Saturday morning with my friends riding my horse? But he was resentful. So I would tell him I'll be back by noon, even though I didn't want to be back by noon. I wanted to relax. I deserved it after working full-time all week. And he didn't want to be alone taking care of our daughter, because he had told me repeatedly that that was my job. Well, I would go and ride my horse, but I would feel guilty that I was having fun. And when I returned home, the house would be a mess. He would have purposely left things out, and the newspaper thrown everywhere, the dishes from lunch still left in the sink. And I guess he was retaliating that I had left him alone with our daughter. And what did I do? I picked up the newspaper, I did the dishes, I cleaned up the rooms that I had already cleaned before I left, and I felt incredibly, incredibly lonely. Why did I stay? Well, I didn't know any better. I'd lived this way all my life. I'd been lonely all my life. I normalized it. I thought that's all I deserved. Isn't this sad? But it's not sad because I learned from it. And now I can talk about it. And hopefully, um, you can relate to some of this if you recognize your own behavior. Because please don't do what I did. Please don't accept being lonely as acceptable behavior. And please don't normalize it. Because you deserve to be happy and to feel fulfilled. Now, my second husband, I've already talked about that, another narcissist. And they were, the best way I can describe that marriage was like being on a roller coaster. We would be incredibly happy and funny together and do some really outrageously funny things. He had a boat. We'd go out and spend all day on the boat and swim in the ocean. But he would easily turn into a rage at other boaters if they were bothering him or passing by too closely. And I would have to be subjected to that. And again, my loneliness would creep in because I could not be myself and tell him that he was being ridiculous because that would make him even more angry. So I had to cater to him. And I guess the word is placate, walking on eggshells. And if you're ever around someone walking on eggshells, that has to be one of the most lonely experiences you can ever experience. And I was even more lonely because I didn't understand why I was acting this way. But see, I'd been doing it all my life because I didn't feel that I deserved better. And so here we are now. I'm living alone, all by myself, out here in the woods. And I have never felt so free and so fulfilled. Before I even started this YouTube channel, I loved taking my dogs for a hike out in the woods. Just me and my dogs. Get in my kayak and just float along with the current by myself with my dogs and feel so incredibly at peace and fulfilled and not lonely at all. And why is that? Because I was being true to myself. Because I was not walking on eggshells to benefit anybody else. And I was not being that fake person to fulfill someone else's wishes and needs. And I have to say, it's really funny that some people even still think I'm lonely by being out here in the woods. And now that I've revived my YouTube channel, it's going on 9 months now. I never imagined how fulfilling this channel would be because I'm talking to all of you from my heart and soul with my authentic being who I had never been able to be before. And I am connecting to all of you and being able to share inspiring and helpful thoughts from everything that I suffered with. And how cool is that, right? How much more rewarding can a life possibly be? I don't even have words to explain it. And every time I read your comments, I can't even tell you how thankful I am for all of you kind people out there. And for even the people that aren't so kind, I don't care. Say whatever you want. I'll just banish you from my channel because we don't need you. We don't want you. We don't need you. You're gone. Go somewhere else and complain and be miserable. And that is something that I chuckle about. And I also feel sorry for the people who feel the need to do that because they are still lonely and they are still in misery. And if they need to find fault with someone else for their own gain, that is very, very sad. So in any event, Loneliness, I think, can come from so many different reasons. It comes, I was lonely because of how I was taught to not believe in myself. And my dogs are in the cabin, and now they've decided to go crazy, barking at something, but I'm going to ignore them. And I suppose you can be incredibly lonely if you've lost someone very special in your life. And that's a different kind of loneliness. And it's a different kind of void uh, that uh, creates that emptiness and that ache in your heart. And I'm so very sorry if you've experienced that. I have experienced it also. Um, and also with special animals in my life, a horse, actually quite a few horses and dogs, because each one had their own personality and their own special uniqueness to me. And I can never replace them. And I can only treasure what I have now and remember all the love they gave to me and know that they're still with me in their spirit, and that makes me feel joy. So please leave a comment if you're feeling lonely and why you think you are. And if anything I can offer uh, to raise you up out of that uh, very aching feeling of not feeling connected. Because if you're connected with yourself, you will not feel lonely. You will not feel lonely because you will find strength in connecting with yourself. And even if you've lost someone that you had that connection with, I believe they're still with you in spirit. And I believe that the love that you had for them is eternal and is still with you in energy and in your surroundings, even though that person is no longer physically present. And I would love to talk about that more because I wrote about it in my book, There Is a Something. And I know for a fact that we exist beyond this physical realm. And that relieves a lot of loneliness because if you think you've lost someone, I don't think you really have. Because love is forever. And love is a binding force that will always and always exist. And so I hope that is a helpful thought for some of you. And I love thinking about the people and the animals who I've lost because they're all still with me. And I also have a very unique perspective on time because I don't believe that the past is really gone. I believe it shifts out of our third dimension and it becomes, it evolves into a different dimension. And it may be the fourth dimension or the fifth. And I believe someday we will understand it, but not in my lifetime. So if you're feeling lonely, I hope you feel free enough to reach out and leave a comment and share a story about why perhaps you think you are, or if you are no longer lonely, and what you think about living alone. Because I know a lot of you do live alone like me, and you're not lonely at all, and I get it. And you understand me too. And I'm so glad that you've mentioned that. So again, thank you very much. My channel has just so expanded. I think I might even hit 20,000 subscribers in a few more days, which is just outstanding to me. It's just absolutely mind-boggling how this is happening. And I'm so thrilled and I'm so happy to be creating what I hope are helpful videos. So again, I hope you're all having a great day wherever you are in the world. And please feel free to ask me anything. Thanks, everyone. Take care.